I placed fresh lilies on Amanda's grave just as I had every month for the past 2 years. The crisp autumn air felt unusually peaceful, almost as if my grief had finally settled into acceptance. Little did I know my entire reality was about to shatter. Last night I received a phone call that left me frozen. That voice on the other end so familiar, so impossible. This morning, scrolling through social media, I saw her face staring back at me. My dead wife alive under a different name. If you want to hear how my family betrayed me in the worst way imaginable, drop a like, subscribe, and let me know where you are watching from. Trust me, you will want to hear this story from beginning to end. 2 years before I discovered the truth, I was living what I thought was the American dream. At 32, I had everything going for me. As a software engineer at a prestigious tech company in Boston, I had finally established myself professionally after years of grinding through code and all-nighters. My career was on an upward trajectory, but something was missing. That something changed the night I attended a charity gala for children with cancer. I spotted her across the room, Amanda Davis, working the event as a coordinator. She had this magnetic energy about her, confidently directing volunteers while charming donors. Her dark auburn hair cascaded down her back, and when she laughed, the entire room seemed brighter. I pretended to need help finding the silent auction section just to talk to her. First time at one of these events, Amanda asked, her green eyes twinkling with amusement. "That obvious, huh?" I replied, feeling suddenly like a teenager again. Only to the trained eye she winked. "I am Amanda, by the way. Benedict Walsh," I said, extending my hand. When our fingers touched, I knew. Sometimes you just know. We exchanged numbers that night, and within a week I took her to dinner at an upscale restaurant overlooking the harbor. 6 perfect months followed, filled with weekend getaways, deep conversations until sunrise, and a connection I had never experienced before. Everyone said we were moving too fast when I proposed at the 6-month mark. But when you know why... Wait. Amanda said yes. Immediately, tears streaming down her face as I slid the diamond ring onto her finger. We married within the year at a beautiful ceremony in Cape Cod. My parents spared no expense, insisting on handling most of the arrangements. My mother, Catherine, seemed particularly invested in making everything perfect, which surprised me given her usually reserved nature. My father, Richard, a retired judge, gave a heartfelt speech about welcoming Amanda to our family. My younger sister, Lauren, served as a bridesmaid, though I noticed some tension between her and Amanda during the planning process. Our honeymoon in Italy was straight out of a romantic film. 2 weeks exploring Tuscany, Venice, and the Amalfi Coast completely wrapped up in each other. Amanda had never traveled internationally before, and seeing the world through her eyes made me fall even deeper in love. We took thousands of photos, made love in historic cities, and planned our future over bottles of wine in centuries-old vineyards. The first year of marriage was everything I had hoped for. We bought a beautiful colonial-style home in a suburb outside Boston, with plenty of room for the children we planned to have. Amanda decorated every room with impeccable taste, creating a warm, inviting space that felt like us. We hosted dinner parties for friends and family, started saving for retirement, and discussed baby names late into the night. The shift happened so gradually, I almost missed it. Around our 14-month anniversary, Amanda began changing. Small things at first. She would step outside to take phone calls. Her smiles seemed forced. She began working later hours at the event planning company. When I asked if everything was all right, she would insist she was just stressed about work. Then Jackson appeared. Amanda introduced him as an old college friend who had recently moved to Boston. They had reconnected through social media, she explained. Something about him made me uneasy. The way he looked at Amanda was too familiar, too intimate. When I mentioned my discomfort to Amanda, she accused me of being possessive. "We are just friends, Benedict. I am allowed to have friends outside our marriage," she snapped. Things grew increasingly strained when we had dinner with my family. My mother asked pointed questions about Amanda's past that seemed to catch my wife off guard. "You mentioned growing up in Philadelphia, but I thought you said Burlington before," my mother asked innocently, though her eyes were sharp. "I moved around a lot as a kid," Amanda answered quickly, her fork scraping loudly against her plate. Later that week, my sister Lauren pulled me aside after a family lunch. "I saw Amanda at Starbucks yesterday when she told you she was at a client meeting," Lauren whispered. "She was with that Jackson guy. They looked pretty cozy." I dismissed Lauren's concerns, chalking it up to the slight friction that had always existed between her and Amanda. But seeds of doubt had been planted, and I began noticing more inconsistencies. Amanda had changed all her passwords. Her phone was never left unattended. Our joint credit card showed charges at restaurants I had never been to on days Amanda claimed to be working late. Our arguments escalated, particularly about finances. Amanda suddenly wanted access to my inheritance account money my grandfather had left, specifically for me that I had been saving for our future children's education. When I questioned why she needed access, she became defensive. "Do you not trust me? I am your wife," she argued. "It is not about trust. That money is earmarked for our children," I explained. "And what if we never have children?" She shot back a question that stunned me into silence. We had always agreed on wanting a family. My suspicion that Amanda might be having an affair with Jackson grew stronger. Twice I drove past his downtown apartment and saw her car parked outside during supposed work events. When confronted, she had explanations ready, but they felt rehearsed, hollow. The day that changed everything started like any other. It was a Friday in June, sunny and warm. Amanda had packed a weekend bag claiming she had a corporate retreat for work. When I called her office to surprise her with lunch before her trip, her assistant seemed confused. "Amanda requested the weekend off weeks ago. There is no corporate retreat." When she returned home that evening, I confronted her with what I knew. The argument that followed was explosive. Amanda screamed that I was suffocating her, checking up on her like she was a child. I demanded to know where she was really planning to go. In the heat of the moment, I grabbed her phone when it buzzed with a message from Jackson. "Give me my phone," she yelled, snatching it back. "Tell me the truth, Amanda. Are you having an affair?" I asked, my voice breaking. Instead of answering, she grabbed her keys and weekend bag. "I cannot do this right now," she said coldly. "I need space to think." She slammed the door on her way out. That was the last time I saw my wife alive. Or so I thought. The phone call came at 3 a.m. An officer from the state police, his voice grave. "Mr. Walsh, I regret to inform you that there has been an accident involving your wife's vehicle." The world stopped spinning. According to the police, Amanda's car had veered off a coastal road about 60 miles north of Boston, crashing through a guardrail and plummeting into a rocky ravine. The vehicle caught fire upon impact. By the time emergency responders arrived, the car was engulfed in flames. Given the intensity of the fire and the impact, damage recovery of remains has been difficult, the officer explained carefully. "We have found some fragments, but a full identification will take time." I spent the next few hours in shock, calling my parents' Amanda's workplace, trying to process what had happened. My parents arrived at my house before dawn, my mother immediately taking charge of the situation. "You are in no condition to handle the arrangements," she insisted, her voice surprisingly steady. "Let us take care of everything." What followed was a blur of funeral home visits, paperwork, and decisions that felt impossible to make. Strangely, my father suggested cremation would be appropriate, given the circumstances. At the time, I was too numb to question why my Catholic father, who had always insisted on traditional burial, was suddenly advocating for cremation. The funeral was held just 5 days after the accident. There was no open casket, just a portrait of Amanda surrounded by flowers and a simple urn that supposedly contained her remains. Looking back, I should have questioned more, pushed for answers, demanded to see official reports. But grief had hollowed me out. I could barely function. My parents' behavior at the funeral struck me as odd, even through my haze of grief. They seemed solemn but composed, almost rehearsed in their condolences. My sister Lauren kept her distance, avoiding eye contact with me throughout the service. When Amanda's few friends from work broke down sobbing, my family remained stoically calm. In the weeks that followed, I spiraled. I took an extended leave from work. I barely ate. Sleep came only with the help of prescription medication that left me groggy and disoriented. My therapist diagnosed me with complicated grief and depression, recommending twice-weekly sessions and antidepressants. 3 weeks after the funeral, while searching for insurance documents, I discovered something peculiar. Amanda had changed the beneficiary on her life insurance policy just 2 months before her death. Instead of me, she had named her cousin in Arizona as the beneficiary. A cousin she had never mentioned in our 2 years together. When I brought this up to my mother, she quickly dismissed my concerns. People make strange decisions all the time, dear. Let it go. You do not need the money. Even stranger was how quickly my mother cleared out Amanda's belongings from our home. While I was at a therapy appointment, she boxed up everything, donating most items to charity. When I protested wanting to keep more of Amanda's things, she insisted it was healthier to move forward. All I had left was Amanda's wedding ring, supposedly recovered from the wreckage, though it showed no signs of fire damage. 6 months after the accident, financial necessity forced me back to work. My colleagues walked on eggshells around me, unsure how to act in the presence of such profound loss. I went through the motions, coding during the day, staring at walls at night. The house that once felt warm now echoed with emptiness. A year passed. The nightmares continued, vivid dreams where Amanda was alive, trying to tell me something important. I attributed them to unresolved grief, but a nagging feeling persisted. Something about her death never felt real to me. While reviewing our joint accounts for tax purposes, I noticed something I had missed before. The day before the accident, our shared savings account had been emptied. $50,000 gone. The bank confirmed Amanda had withdrawn it in person in cash. Why would she need that much cash? The day before, a supposed work retreat. The revelation came 25 months after Amanda's death. I was in Seattle for a work conference, staying downtown near Pike Place Market. After a long day of presentations, I decided to walk to a nearby coffee shop to clear my head. As I waited in line for my order, I glimpsed a woman through the window walking briskly past. Her hair was shorter blonde instead of auburn, but something about her gait, the way she carried herself, stopped my heart. It could not be. I abandoned my place in line and rushed outside, but she had disappeared into the crowd. I convinced myself it was my imagination. A cruel trick of grief. But the next evening, while grabbing groceries at a local market, I saw her again. This time I was certain. Despite the hair color change, the sunglasses, the different style of clothing, I knew my wife's face. Our eyes met for a split second before she turned and hurried away. Back in my hotel room, I could barely breathe. Was I losing my mind? Or was Amanda somehow alive? I searched social media obsessively, trying different name combinations, until finally at 3 a.m. I found her. Jessica Wilson, living in Seattle, working for an event planning company similar to her old one. The profile was new, less than 2 years old. The photos were carefully curated to avoid clear face shots, but it was her, my dead wife. I extended my stay in Seattle, calling in sick to the conference. Using the hotel as my base, I hired a private investigator, draining my savings account to pay his hefty retainer. While he began surveillance on Jessica Wilson, I requested copies of the accident report and medical examiner's findings, documentation I had been too devastated to review at the time. What the investigator discovered over the next few days confirmed my suspicions and revealed an even deeper betrayal. Jessica Wilson received regular visits from my sister Lauren. They were friends, close friends. The private investigator photographed them having lunch, shopping together, even entering the same yoga studio. The accident report, when it arrived, contained troubling inconsistencies. The vehicle identification number matched Amanda's car, but the report noted inconclusive DNA testing due to fire damage. The medical examiner had never positively identified the remains, as Amanda's only ruling the death consistent with the reported accident victim based on circumstantial evidence. The bombshell came when the investigator recovered deleted text messages between my mother's phone and Amanda's from a cloud backup I still had access to. Messages exchanged days before the accident, discussing the plan and whether everything was in place. I confronted Lauren, first flying back to Boston and showing up unannounced at her apartment. Her face drained of color when she opened the door. "You know, do not you," she whispered, backing away from me. "My wife is alive and you helped her disappear," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. "I want to know why." Lauren broke down, admitting what I already suspected. My family, my own flesh and blood, had helped Amanda fake her death. According to Lauren, Amanda had come to them, claiming I was controlling, emotionally abusive, that she feared for her safety, but was afraid a divorce would send me into a violent rage. She had bruise photos. Benedict. Journal entries detailing threats you made, Lauren explained through tears. Mom and Dad believed her. We all did. Bruises I never gave her. Threats I never made. I replied, feeling sick. And none of you thought to ask me to verify any of this. While Lauren sobbed apologies, I discovered her diary in her bedroom. Years of entries, including detailed notes about the plan to help Amanda escape her supposedly abusive marriage by faking her death. Lauren had helped Amanda bleach and cut her hair the day before the accident. My mother had connected Amanda with her cousin in Arizona, who provided temporary housing until she could relocate to Seattle. The final piece came from Jackson, whom I tracked down in Chicago. Far from being Amanda's lover, he was her accomplice, helping her plan her escape and new identity. He revealed Amanda had been methodically withdrawing small amounts from our accounts, for months building a nest egg for her new life. She had planned her death for nearly a year. Most devastating was learning my parents had paid a contact in the medical examiner's office to falsify reports and had used my father's judicial connections to fast-track the death certificate with minimal investigation. The burned body and the car animal remains placed there to provide organic material for testing. My entire family had conspired against me, believing I was a monster based solely on Amanda's word. The betrayal cut deeper than any knife. Armed with the full truth, I flew back to Seattle to confront Amanda, or Jessica, as she now called herself. I found her leaving work, falling into step beside her as she walked to her car. She froze when she recognized me, keys dropping from her trembling hands. Benedict. She gasped, her face white with shock. How did you find me? The better question is why. Amanda, I said quietly. Why the elaborate hoax? Why turn my family against me? Why not just divorce me? She insisted we talk somewhere private, leading me to a small apartment that bore no resemblance to the home we had shared. Over the next 2 hours, the full truth emerged. There had never been abuse. There had never been threats. There had been Jackson, not her friend or brother, as she had claimed to different people, but her lover. A relationship that began 6 months into our marriage. I did not want to hurt you, she claimed, unable to meet my eyes. And I did not want to lose half of everything in a divorce. So you chose to let me think you were dead, to let me mourn you, to turn my own family against me. My voice remained calm, though inside I was shattered all over again. Amanda admitted to manufacturing evidence of abuse, studying domestic violence cases online to make her claims credible. She had shown my parents fake text messages, altered photos, and a fabricated journal of escalating, controlling behavior. She had presented herself as a terrified woman who saw no other escape. Your parents were so protective of me, especially your mother, Amanda explained. Once I planted the seeds, they came up with the fake death idea themselves. The final revelation was almost too much to bear. Jackson was not just her lover, but her fiancé, now living together in an upscale neighborhood across town. They were expecting a baby, a life built on the ashes of the one she had burned down. With nothing left to say to Amanda, I returned to Boston to confront my parents. The meeting in their elegant Beacon Hill home was ice cold. I laid out everything I had learned, showing them the evidence I had gathered, including security camera footage from our home that disproved Amanda's claims of physical altercations. We thought we were saving her life, my father said defensively. She was very convincing. You could have asked me. Your son. Instead, you chose to believe I was capable of abuse without a single question. I replied, my voice breaking for the first time. You helped fake a death. You lied to authorities. You let me suffer through grief and depression for 2 years. My mother began crying. My father stared at the floor. Neither could justify their actions in the face of the evidence I presented. The breach of trust was catastrophic. How could I ever look at them the same way again? In the months that followed, I faced a choice. I could pursue legal action against Amanda and my family for fraud, conspiracy, filing false reports. I could seek revenge, exposure, public humiliation for them all. The attorneys I consulted assured me I had a strong case. Instead, I chose a different path. I did not want to spend years of my life in courtrooms reliving this betrayal daily. I did not want to be defined by what had been done to me. I shared the truth with close friends and colleagues who had supported me through my grief, ensuring my reputation was restored among those who mattered. I sent copies of my evidence to Amanda's new employer, to Jackson's family, to the social circle they were building in Seattle. Not out of vengeance, but because the truth deserved to be known. I wanted them to understand there would be consequences for their deception, but I would not be consumed by pursuing them. With my family, I established new boundaries. We began the slow process of rebuilding trust, though I knew things would never be the same. My mother entered therapy to understand why she had been so quick to believe the worst about her son. My father, faced with the reality of nearly destroying his child's life, became humbled in ways I had never seen before. The hardest part was letting go of the anger. For weeks, I could barely sleep, consumed by thoughts of what had been done to me. My therapist helped me see that holding on to that rage would only extend Amanda's power over my life. Gradually, I redirected my energy into rebuilding. I sold the house filled with painful memories and moved to Denver, accepting a position with a promising startup. I discovered rock climbing, found a community of friends with no knowledge of my past. I started volunteering with a literacy program for underprivileged kids, finding purpose in helping others. 6 months after the confrontation, I received an email from Amanda. She had come clean to everyone in her life about the deception after I had sent out my evidence. Her relationship with Jackson had collapsed under the weight of the truth. She apologized, though. The words felt hollow after everything that had happened. Surprisingly, it was Lauren who made the most genuine amends. She had been the first to acknowledge the terrible wrong the family had done. She visited me in Denver, spending days in difficult, honest conversations about why she had participated in the deception and how we might salvage some kind of relationship. Today, 2 years after discovering the truth, I can finally say, I am at peace. The experience taught me that sometimes the people closest to you can cause the deepest wounds, but also that resilience comes from refusing to be defined by betrayal. I discovered strength I never knew I had. The truth always surfaces eventually. No lie, no matter how elaborately constructed, can stay buried forever. I learned that real power is not found in revenge or retaliation, but in choosing to live authentically despite what others have done to you. What would you have done in my situation? Would you have pursued legal action or chosen to move forward as I did? Let me know in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe to hear more tales of overcoming betrayal and finding strength. Share with someone who might need to hear that even after the deepest deceptions, healing is possible. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, sometimes the end of one chapter is just the beginning of a more authentic life.